Hey guys, this is part 3 in my Pentium 2 restoration series. In part 1, I did a full installation of Windows 98 on this 850 meg hard drive. Part 2 was a BIOS update. And today in part 3, we're going to copy that installation of Windows 98 to an 8 gig compact flash card. I have Jasmine, my E8400 test system, out on the bench today. And here we have the 850 meg drive, as well as the compact flash adapter. Let's get an IDE cable installed in the system. Now this cable is keyed, so I don't have to worry about putting it in wrong. And for the compact flash adapter, I'm going to leave that set to master. Since we only have one IDE channel, we need to make sure one IDE device is master and the other is slave. So if you see this green jumper here, that indicates that this compact flash adapter is set to master. So let's plug that cable in. And I'm going to mount the bracket just to make this a little more stable. And then, of course, the hard drive has to be set to slave. We've got our jumpers here, and the one in the middle is for the slave setting. Connect the IDE cable and the power. And I'm going to balance that hard drive precariously on the power supply. Maybe a book under there just in case. There we go. That's not janky at all. And of course I still need to plug the power into the compact flash adapter. I'll realize I made that mistake in a moment or two and correct that. Okay, now that that's all properly connected, let's fire up Jasmine and boot into Windows 7. Now I found quite a few programs that you can use to copy from one partition to another. Most of them were simply trial versions. This MacroRit Partition Expert was one of the few that I found that would let me do the full job without demanding money. Now, I don't want to do any advertising for them, but from what I've seen, it's a good product. If you're looking for something to copy a disk, I would highly recommend it. So we're going to copy from the 850 over to the 8 gig compact flash. And of course, it automatically wants to make a partition the same size as the hard drive. So I'm just going to expand that, and we'll try and make the partition size the maximum we can. So just double check our settings here. Make sure I'm not going to nuke one of my other hard drives. And then if I click on Commit, it will initiate the copy. It's always a good idea if you're copying partitions like this to be very careful, take your time. I have to admit I have nuked many a partition before and regretted it immediately afterwards. That's also where it's a good idea to have a good solid backup before you try anything of this nature. Okay, that copy is complete. And Windows wants to format the disk. That, of course, is not something we want to do. And we did get an error message. Seems to be in relation to the master boot record. We'll deal with that in a moment or two. Let's pull that hard drive out, and I'll put the compact flash back in the Pentium 2. Okay, so our compact flash is detected properly, and it is not bootable. Okay, well that's no great surprise. Let's boot from a Windows 98 startup floppy, and we'll take a look and see why. Drop a comment down below if you know what might be wrong. So let's go into fdisk. Now this is a custom startup floppy. I don't think fdisk was actually on the standard Windows 98 startup disk. And yeah, as I suspected, that partition is not set active. So let's set that to an active partition. And of course we have to reboot the computer. So is it going to boot properly this time? And no, we've got an invalid system disk. Okay, once again, let's boot from that 98 startup floppy. Now you remember we did have that error message from macrorit that referenced the MBR, the master boot record. So I'm going to use fdisk to reinstall the master boot record on this drive. Let's do an fdisk/mbr and reboot once again. And is it going to work this time? No, we've still got an invalid system disk. Okay, so there's one more trick we can try here. Let's boot from that 98 startup floppy again. And this time I'm going to issue the sys command. We'll copy the system files over to that C drive. That should make it bootable. Now if this doesn't work, we may need to go back, blow away that partition, and make a new one that's only 2 gigs. From what I've read, it's not unusual for some systems to fail to boot from compact flash when the partition size is greater than 2 gigs. So let's reboot once again, and cross your fingers. And we are booting into Windows 98. Excellent. Okay, detecting new hardware. Let's give it a moment to install those. I don't actually have a mouse yet. There we go, now I've got a mouse. And it wants to reboot. Good, we're back at the login prompt. Okay, let's bring up my computer and take a look at that C drive. Free software for instant communication across the internet? Yeah, maybe later. And yes, indeed, we've got an 8 gig compact flash as our C drive, formatted to 7.45 gig, but I can live with that. So the good news is we've got plenty of space on this drive. I have a couple of classic games that I'd like to install on this computer. The bad news, unfortunately, Canada Post is still on strike. I'm still waiting for the AGP video card. So really, we're not going to be doing any gaming on this computer in the near future. But there's plenty of other cool things we can do in the interim. So if you enjoyed this one, please feel free to like and subscribe. Drop a comment down below. And, as always, thanks for watching.